Hi, I'm Jeff Patton, and I want to talk about the simple mental model I use to think about software product development process. Now, you can apply this simple model to any kind of product development, but since I know software, it's easiest for me to talk about it from that respect. I'm going to start with, most process models I see seem to start with ideas. And those ideas can be for products, or if you've already got products, therefore features or enhancements. And the process may describe how we move forward to get those things into specifications, or we eventually start referring to all those things as our requirements. And the process will go through some amount of gymnastics, and we eventually turn those features or enhancements or specifications into something working that we can ship. Now, if you're in the product development world, you know that that's not nearly enough, and that's not complete. And in fact, you can fall into the trap of thinking your job is to build stuff faster. But if you're in the product development world, that's not it. You know that your job is actually to change the world. Now, that may sound like hyperbole, but, everything we make has some impact on the world, and everything goes best if you keep that in mind. The way things really start is we start by paying attention to the world as it is now. We pay attention to our product and the people that buy and use our product today. And if we do that, we're going to find people that are unhappy, or people that are worse than unhappy, that are angry, or people that may be confused or frustrated. It's paying attention to those people that use our product. Now, that's what gives us these ideas. Now, even if you don't have a product, if you're trying to start up a company, you pay attention to the people you wished were using your products or who are using other products and the challenges they have. So it's paying attention to that open space that'll do that. And if we go through whatever process we go through and we turn those ideas into something we can ship, those things ship in the world later. And what we hope is true is that those people that were unhappy before are happy now. And because people are different, and this is annoying, some people are less happy than other people, and some people there's just no pleasing. Now, first couple of vocabulary words that matter here. It's everything between this idea and this delivery of something working. I'm going to refer to all that stuff as output. We hand-wring about this stuff. We worry about it a lot because it costs us money. It takes time, and in fact, we worry about cost and time and what we call all these features, enhancements, specifications. We often call that scope. Cost, time, and scope seem to be those three things that everybody stresses about. But the annoying thing is that's not what matters. If I were to ask you about any product that you love, a product that you would tell somebody about, I promise you, you won't tell them, I really love this product because it was finished on time. In fact, what matters when we're thinking from a product perspective is what happens when things come out. The word for that, because of that, is outcome. And while we might measure the stuff in here with cost and time and scope, when we're talking about outcome, we measure it completely different. We measure it by looking at people's behavior. We look for behaviors like seeing and trying and using and continuing to use that product. And once they use it, we can look at their satisfaction. Now, if I draw this much of the model, it looks like it's all about making people happy, but it's not. A characteristic of focusing on product development is, if you make a product for a living, you've got a company to look after. If you work for a company, your company ideally has some vision and some strategy that it's pursuing that helps them realize that vision quarter by quarter or month by month. And you've got some metrics you pay attention to. At minimum, you're paying attention to metrics like revenue and cost. And if those metrics are flat, that starts to make people inside the building unhappy. And hopefully they're giving some guidance on what customers and users it's best to focus on. In fact, that's the heart of strategy, is deciding what customers and users we should be focusing on. If we carry this all the way forward, we focus on customers, come up with ideas, ship something, and if a few people use it, that's awesome. If hundreds do, that's better. If thousands do, or hundreds of thousands do, that's even better. That's when we start to feel it inside of our company. That's when those metrics go up. That's when people inside the building get happy. And the word I want to use for this longer term benefit, the benefit our organization gets, is impact. And we measure that in more traditional ways, things like return on investment or market share, brand awareness. It's important to remember that we get this stuff in our company because our users and our customers get this stuff. In fact, if we ship something new, we can measure almost right away if people see it and try those new features or things that we just shipped. But we can't measure right away whether we got return on investment or whether our market share increased. Those things take longer. It's these outcomes that are immediately measurable or leading indicators, and these bigger, more important things that are lagging indicators. Now, some people will use outcome for both, but draw a distinction between user or customer outcomes and business outcomes. Now, let's talk about the problems with this particular model. The problems actually come in with this stupid idea thing. The annoying thing about ideas is that everybody has them. If you were to talk to any of your customers or users, they've got ideas about what they'd like to see in the product. If you talk to stakeholders inside your organization, of course, they've got ideas. They should probably come from their vision and strategy and paying attention to competitors in the marketplace. And this gets worse if you're successful. The more customers and users you have, the more ideas you have, and the more stakeholders. If your company grows, you get more stakeholders, and they've got more ideas, and that leads to our first big problem with ideas, is that there are always too many. And here's the next problem, and this is a hard one to swallow, is that most of our ideas suck. Now, we all know the failure rate for tech startups is pretty high. Anecdotally, people will say 90% or more, or really 9 in 10 tech startups just don't survive past their first year or two. Now, we've come to expect that. Sometimes we forget that once we deliver a successful product, that when we add new features or enhancements to that product, we start to think that those features or enhancements are going to be awesome every time, but in fact they're not. A lot of them end up being not that great. Now, if we go back to that tech startup world, I've spent some time inside of tech accelerators, places, these co-working spaces where there are lots of startups working together in the same space. There's usually several companies working, and they're usually pretty high energy, but it feels like they should be morgues. They should be super depressing places, because everybody working there is working for a company that's likely going to be out of business next year. That should be super depressing, but for some reason it's not, which brings me to the third reason. Now, those people that work in tech accelerators aren't idiots. They know that the failure rate of startups is pretty high, but if you talk to any single one of them, they can tell you the failure rate for startups is pretty high, but they're pretty confident it is not their idea that will fail. So the third problem we end up with here is that while most ideas suck, we can't tell which, and we're pretty confident in our own. That's a problem. Now, if you're in the product business and it's your job to help understand customers and users and your business and turn ideas into working software, and if you're taking responsibility for outcome and impact, well, this creates a lot of back pressure on the system. There will always be too many of these ideas, and it'll start to feel like your job is just to shovel faster, to build more ideas faster, when in fact it's not. Your job is actually to build less. Your job is to minimize that output at the same time that you maximize that outcome and impact. I wanted to talk about these three words, these three concepts: output, outcome, and impact, because we often use and abuse words like goal or objective, and we may use words like it's a goal to get this thing shipped this quarter, or it's a goal to increase the usage of this particular product or feature, or it's a goal to increase return on investment. And that word goal, or even the word objective, can stretch to fit almost any situation, but words like output, outcome, and impact are a little bit more precise, and they help us kind of keep track of what we're really focusing on. And, well, this is the difference between the project world, where we worry about cost, time, and scope, and the product world, where we realize that we may deliver on all this scope on time and at the right cost. And, well, if people use it, that's a great outcome. If we absolutely nail cost, time, and scope, but people hate it, that's a bad outcome. And here's the confusing thing, is if we absolutely screw up cost, time, and scope, take way too long, spend too much money, deliver a fraction of what we said, but people use it and love it, that's a good outcome. When we're delivering products, that's what matters most. I hope this has been helpful.